I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, August the 21st, 2013. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to comments made yesterday by Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan, saying they have no validity. As we reported to you, Erdogan had accused Israel of being behind the military takeover in Egypt. An official from Netanyahu's office said the comments made by Erdogan were, quote, nonsense. The White House reacted to the Turkish premier's remarks as well. White House spokesman Josh Earnest told reporters in a briefing yesterday, "We strongly condemn the statements that were made by Prime Minister Erdogan today, suggesting that Israel is somehow responsible for recent events in Egypt is offensive, unsubstantiated, and wrong." Jewish organizations here in the U.S. responded to Erdogan's accusations as well. The Anti-Defamation League released a statement expressing shock at the premier's comments and sent a letter to Erdogan, voicing concern that the accusations resembled the centuries-old anti-Semitic myth of a worldwide Jewish conspiracy to control foreign governments. ADL National Director Abe Foxman wrote to suggest Israel has fomented the unrest in Egypt is incitement of the first order, demagogic, and dangerous. The ADL also welcomed the condemnation from the White House and called on other countries to do the same. And Reuters reports that while the U.S. says they are reviewing the situation of military aid to Egypt, they denied suspending aid, following a report from the Daily Beast that cited a U.S. senator who claimed the contrary. White House spokesman Josh Earnest said late yesterday, "Our aid and assistance relationship with Egypt is under a review, but it has not been cut off." Earnest added a decision to cut off aid would be announced, if it were to be announced, after that review has been completed. Meanwhile, the Associated Press reports that deposed Egyptian leader Hosni Mubarak could leave jail as early as tomorrow, after a court ruling today in Cairo said there was no legal grounds for keeping him detained. The Jerusalem Post reports that 2 peace negotiation meetings were held yesterday between Israel and the Palestinians, one during the day and one in the evening. The meetings were kept under wraps, and neither the Prime Minister's office nor chief Israeli negotiator Tzipi Livni's office would confirm them, although, as we reported to you yesterday, a Palestinian official had revealed the existence of the daytime meeting to the press. The talks were apparently originally scheduled to take place today in Jericho, but reportedly were pushed ahead a day because Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat was scheduled to travel to Russia. Israeli and Palestinian negotiators are expected to head to Jericho for the next round of talks. In what appears to be another price tag attack, a monastery in the Beit Shemesh area near Jerusalem was vandalized. The words price tag and revenge in Hebrew were spray painted on the wall of the Beit Jamal monastery overnight, and a firebomb was thrown at it. No one was hurt in the attack. Police spokeswoman Luba Sabri said today that an investigation is underway by Israel's Unit for Nationalistic Crimes. Nun Yedidia, who lives at the monastery, told Ynet, "The monastery has good relations with the Jewish people, and we know whoever did this is a part of a radical minority." Price tag attacks usually take the form of defacing or destruction of property or buildings and are suspected to be the work of Jewish right-wing extremists protesting government policies, in particular regarding the settlements, and also as retaliation for Palestinian attacks. Gadi Gvaryahu of Tag Meir, or Bright Tag, an Israeli anti-extremism organization which works against such price tag attacks, said the desecration of a monastery is the direct continuation of the desecration of more than 20 Christian and Muslim houses of worship targeted during the last 3 years. The price tag perpetrators attempt to instigate hatred between the different religions in Israel and lead to bloodshed. The IDF stationed an Iron Dome anti-rocket battery in central Israel today. An Army spokeswoman said the move was part of an occasional deployment of the air defense systems and not due to any specific threat. The Walla news agency said the system had been set up in the Sharon district in the country's central area. The IDF mobilized a battery to a lot in July following increased terror activities in the Sinai, and earlier this month it successfully intercepted a rocket fired by terrorists in Sinai at the city. And in June, the IDF stationed an Iron Dome in the Haifa region because of reports of increased regional tensions with Syria. Well, British rocker Roger Waters is once again voicing his anti-Israel views, calling on his fellow musicians to boycott the country. A letter released this week by the former Pink Floyd frontman reads, "Please join me and all our brothers and sisters in proclaiming our rejection of apartheid in Israel and occupied Palestine by pledging not to perform or exhibit in Israel or accept any award or funding from any institution linked to the government of Israel." Waters is a known critic of Israel and strong supporter of the BDS, or Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement. German Chancellor Angela Merkel visited the Dachau Memorial yesterday, marking the first visit to the site by a German head of state. Merkel laid a wreath at the site, visited the concentration camp Memorial's museum, and met with survivors. German news media reported Merkel as saying, "The memory of these fates fill me with deep sadness and shame." And Merkel called her visit to the memorial a very significant moment. Head of the Central Council of Jews in Germany, Dieter Graumann, told Spiegel Online magazine that as the first chancellor to visit the Dachau Memorial, Merkel was underscoring the point that the horrors took place not only in the East, but among us in Germany. Original footage from the Warsaw Uprising has been brought to life in a new film released by Poland's Warsaw Rising Museum. The museum spent 2 years creating a 90-minute movie, which was put together from real black and white silent footage, which had been filmed by crews that the Polish Resistance Army had sent out into the city at the time of the 1944 rebellion of its residents against their Nazi occupiers. Color, sound, and voiceover was added to the footage, and modern editing techniques provide a real-life and more relatable feel than the black and white silent footage. The museum posted the film's trailer on their website in an effort to identify the people shown in the footage. Some have already been found. The film, titled Warsaw Rising, is set to be released in Poland and around the world next year before the uprising's 70th anniversary. 5 Jewish day schools have been selected for a new groundbreaking project called BOLD, which stands for Blending Online Learning in Day Schools. The schools include 2 New Jersey schools, the Moriah School and the Rosenbaum Yeshiva of North Jersey, Magen David Yeshiva High School in Brooklyn, Colorado's Denver Academy of Torah, and California's Tarbut V'Torah Community Day School in Irvine. The project, which is funded by the Affordable Jewish Education Project, the Avichai Foundation, and the Kohelet Foundation, is meant to implement sustainable, cost-saving learning programs which integrate online learning and face-to-face instruction. Holly Cohen, executive director of Kohelet, said, "We hope the BOLD day schools will serve as paradigms of how established Jewish day schools can transform themselves into more innovative, affordable institutions that prepare our students for successful Jewish lives in the 21st century." And the Jewish Theological Seminary received a grant from the Avichai Foundation as well to implement its educational program at the William Davidson Graduate School of Jewish Education. JTS announced the funding this week for a plan that includes providing resources to Jewish day schools in the U.S., educators and leaders in Jewish education, as well as increasing its organizational capacity. The school also plans to engage in the research of educational techniques and technology. The Davidson School provides graduate degrees in Jewish education and professional development opportunities for educators. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, August the 21st, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.